Drive View, where John lives on Trinity Mills and the George Bush. Neil is going into memory care, and Sandra is going into assisted living, and that should happen within the next week, probably before Christmas. They're very excited about that. No, he did not. He did say, Terry, that he had been traveling a lot. Rick tried to call him, and he hadn't had a chance to call back. Apologize for that, but he didn't say it. So, and Brittany, their anger got released. How about that? So let's go to God in prayer. Eternal God, we give you thanks for the blessings of this day. It's warm outside, it's unseasonably warm, but we celebrate it. We celebrate our club, we celebrate this time of year. We ask your blessings upon us in our work. We ask your Spirit to be upon this food, bless the hands that prepared it, to take it to the nourishment of our bodies, and keep us in your peace. In the name of Christ, we pray. Amen.
Did McCoy step away? You're on. Lead us in the pledge, sir. And we're ready for the pledge.
Okay, this one being the question of the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Donna, you have our visiting Rotarians and guests.
She is a guest from the trades. Give her a hand. And then we have Mike Fortunato, which is a guest Rotarian from Portland, Maine. His daughter, so welcome you back to the conference.
Thank you, Donna. So Mike, did you want to do your flag presentation today? Mike, did you want to do your flag presentation and tell the club a little bit about your club in Portland? And welcome, we're glad you're here. Thank you for making up in our club. Tell us, what's the temperature in Portland Maine today?
Actually, it's 42 today. It's warm, it's balmy. Anyway, greetings from Portland, Maine. Unfortunately, better. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I come often to Irving, but this is my first time being to your club, so I hope to come back again in the future. Portland, Maine, our club, we have about 120 members presently. We are the oldest club in Maine. We've been around since 1915. It's our 107th year. We have an international project in the Dominican Republic that we do hearing aids and prosthesis and water filters. We've been doing that now for about 17 years. And we partner with the West Palm Beach Club in Florida doing so, and along with a number of community projects. But I was very impressed with your flag project. And got to bring that back and see if that's something we may be able to replicate. Anyway, it's a pleasure being with you this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you for being here. We welcome you over the next few weeks. We will locate our flag and send you back with one when you go back. Well, we've got an exciting program today. I'm going to ask Laura Manning to come introduce our program. So let's give it up for Laura.
Okay, I'm super excited about the program today, and I think y'all will be too. I had the pleasure of meeting Jason, gosh, about 7 years ago, I guess, for the first time. And every time I hear Jason speak, it is just amazing, and it's really hard. right in the heart. And, but recently, I was at an event, and I was listening to Jason, and while he was speaking, I was standing next to his mother. And then it hit me in a totally different place. It was like in my gut. And I realized that families go through so much also. The veterans are going through amazing stuff and terrible stuff, and what's happened is bad. And Jason has this can-do attitude and an amazing disposition and everything else that gets him through it. And he has taken that and co-founded a project, and he's going to tell you all about it today, that veterans have, there's a lot of gaps in the system, I'll just say, to put it nicely. And so he's figured out a way to help veterans, give them a place, a retreat, a place to go, and their families, so that he's including the families portion. So please welcome Jason Morgan and John Gavin.
It's okay if I don't stand right. Is this my buddy out here? Wait, hold on, please. Here. Yeah, also just heard the story a few times before, so. So sure, and my name is Jason Morgan. I was a staff sergeant in the United States Air Force, and I served in the Air Force for 10 years, from '89 to 1999. And my call sign was, those are all the special operations I worked with, was Gosh Man. I was probably the only guy in special operations that didn't cuss. And we'd go through something horrific, and I'd say like Gosh Man or something, and just laugh at me. But you know, after breaking your back and losing a leg and everything else, I don't think they can call me Gosh Man anymore. But anyway, I was proud of it at the time. So what I was a Gray Beret. So I was Air Force Special Operations, and we did weather behind enemy lines, behind denied territories. For all special operations, we did it for helicopter pilots. If we were jumping in, or leaving in the water, we do currents and tides. It was the whole thing basically operated on weather. So anytime they had a mission, they'd come to us first, and we would plan the mission around the weather. Basically, weather was an asset, and so not only I was a meteorologist, but also went with them and trained to go on the missions with them. And then in 1999, I was in South America and Ecuador doing a mission for a counter-narcotic mission. And I have it was for about almost 6 weeks for training Ecuadorian Special Forces, working with the Navy SEALs how to combat against this group called the FARC. I have a quick video to show you about. Yeah.
Years 1999, still raging on heavily. The cocaine trade not only produced billions in cash, but also many terrorists. One of the largest and best funded was the Communist Party militants. They were terrorists who called themselves freedom fighters. Over time, the FARC insurgents spread through Colombia and neighboring countries, including Ecuador. The Air Force Special Operations Command will quickly deploy elite air commanders into the Amazon rainforest to train Ecuadorians how to defend themselves against the growing threat of FARC. Staff Sergeant Jason Morgan was days away from the end of his deployment when a request came through for volunteers to escort a supply truck on an 8-hour journey up the treacherous mountain roads to the capital city of Quito. Jason Morgan volunteered, a decision that would change his life forever.
So as me and my best friend, buddy Travis, we volunteered to go with the driver for security. And along that route, we got ambushed from behind. I was in the back seat with my weapon trying to disable the vehicle and the people behind me. And our driver was speeding away and didn't make the next corner. So our driver went off a routine as we were going through these mountains, and the vehicle started flipping down the mountainside. And after like the third or fourth flip, I was thrown from the vehicle because it was already halfway hanging out the back window. And then I landed face down in this flat area of this like stagnant water, and the vehicle landed on top of me. And I kept flipping down the mountainside. In fact, it smashed me so far down it wasn't barely visible when the surface. And so, you know, there I was sitting under 14,000 feet, which is hard to breathe there anyway. It's about as high as Mike's feet. And you know, like every time I tried to breathe in, I just ingested this water. I was slowly drowning or quickly drowning. And I think there's a picture of the vehicle right here after they recovered it several weeks later. But you know, I was very fortunate. God was definitely with me. This American missionary that was in Ecuador. They went to check on a remote antenna site, and they saw the skid marks, and they decided to get out of their van and check it out. They saw a vehicle with one of the beam. And I met him several years later. He told me the story, and he said that as him and his coworkers were going down the mountainside to go to the vehicle, the only reason is because he stepped on me. I was out in the mud, so obviously very lucky. He pulled me over and started breathing again, barely. And then he tried to, and because he worked for a radio station, they tried to, other people stopped him with the rescue. And it was out of cell phone service, so they couldn't call in. But because he worked for the radio station, he had a shortwave radio to call the American Embassy. He then relayed to get us an ambulance. So it was pretty, he's about the only one possible there that could have saved me. And they told us it would be about 3 hours before the ambulance got to us. He told me, he says, I don't think he has 3 hours. He knew I was in really, really bad shape. And so they decided to leave the ambulance halfway. And I was told that as soon as we met up with the ambulance, I quit breathing and started testing to revive me. And then I went into a coma and I didn't wake up for like 6 months later, back in the US. And it was, and there's no way, this is, I speak for a lot longer, and I have to shorten this a little bit, but you know, the 6 weeks that I spent in the hospital, or this, my first 6 weeks was critical, it was day to day. And they kept saying, as long as Jason doesn't get pneumonia, we think he'll make it through. And then I got pneumonia, you know, it just one after another. And I know my parents went through a lot there. They would try to bring me out of my coma, and I wasn't responding right. So they thought that I had brain damage in the amount of time that I was face down in the water. I'm telling you, it's a good thing I did, because I used to be like so incredibly smart. So now I'm just kind of even with everyone else, so it all worked out. But when my brother was writing, my brother was with me in ICU. He was trying to get me to talk and speak to me, and I was just saying words that didn't make any sense. And so he asked me, he said, Jason, what's your favorite verse? And it was hard to hear me because I had a feeding tube and I had a chest tube. And I quoted a verse to my brother. He had to put my ear up to his ear to my mouth to hear it. But and I'll share that with you in a minute. But there's so many stories that happened during that time, so just got to read the book to get all of them. But real quick, I can say is that my twin sister, they were going to do surgery on me. I was in there for about a month. They were going to do surgery on my back to finally stabilize my back and put the rods in. See the extent of the damage that I had. And so they told my family that it's going to be a long day, so go home. And so they went downstairs to eat, and as they were going out to the parking lot, my sister told my dad, like, I have a bad feeling. I think you need to go check on Jason. And because you are the small state here. And because I think you need to go check on Jason. And my dad went to the finally convinced him. He's like, he's in ICU, he's fine. So finally, my dad went upstairs. My sister's pretty persistent. And he found out that I was in cardiac arrest. Someone actually muted the alarms on there, so no one even knew. So that was another time. I think it took another 6 hours to stabilize me. I rested that time too. So there was so many things that happened. It's just very miraculous that I'm even here today. And you know, all of a sudden they told me that, you know, you're lucky to be alive, but you'll never walk again. I went from jumping out of airplanes to being confined to a bed. And I just knew that's not a life that I wanted to live. Like I couldn't believe it. You know, I was horrified. All I could think was that I was going to be in this 80-pound chair, and someone's going to have to push me somewhere everywhere I went, and I have no independence whatsoever. You know, and everything that y'all take for granted every single day, that it's not easy for me. Like everything in a chair is like 5 times harder. You know, I had to learn how to dress in it. I mean, when they told me how I was going to have to use the restroom, I just said, there's no way. Like, I'm not even going to go into detail. I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. And it's just one after another. And the pressure sores that I got, and trying to learn how to dress and bathe. And the worst thing was my pain. When I woke up from my coma, I was in horrific pain. Like I started screaming. It was so bad, and all they could do was just load me up full of morphine until I almost dozed off. It could not help me with the pain. It was so hard to deal with it. And the pain brought on a lot of depression, going from to I was at the job, my dream job. Everything I wanted to do, I was there doing it. And I went from that to being confined into a bed and into a wheelchair, and brought out a lot of depression. I thought my kids were young. I'm like, how can I be a father to my kids? I can't even pick them up. What kind of dad can do that? If they want to go to the playground and go play, I can't even go with them because my wheelchair won't go on the grass. And all the things we did before the hiking, go on the beach were no longer in our lives. It was extremely tough. It's tough to say the least. There's a picture of my boys a few years later, and so it was just kind of going on. And I was in the hospital now for 11 months. I spent my first 7 years. I spent 3.5 years in the hospital. I probably had over 40 to 50 major surgeries. I had almost 2 major ones this year alone, and it was. But I was finally coming home after 11 months. I was in the hospital, I was coming home, and I was so excited. And to my wife, and I'm like, I started off being a father to my wife again, or a father to my kids, and a husband to my wife. And my wife let me know that she had met someone else during that time, and she was not going to be there when I got home. And it was just like, wow, I don't even know if I can do this by myself, And not only she left me, but she left the boys too. I'm like, not only have I to take care of myself, I got 3 young kids to take after. But in a way, it was a blessing, because it gave me a reason to get out of bed. Like I had to take care of my boys, and I think if I didn't have that, I think I would have just been pretty much homebound and bed bound for a while. But anyway, so my wife told me I had to leave after a couple of months, and but when the 2 months were over, when I got well, it was at a permanent boyfriend that left me. I stayed with the house with the kids. That was kind of my first big battle. But then as I started, with the kids, I tried to be the best father I can from a chair, and it was difficult, but I never let my wheelchair, be an excuse. But the biggest thing that started helping was I started getting into sports. Those are all pictures of me from golf to swimming to wheelchair racing, scuba diving. That was school. Me and my boys got scuba certified. Scuba diving was like nothing out of reach. I could go anywhere anyone else could go. It was just really an amazing thing when you have the freedom away from your chair is huge. And you see a picture of me swimming right there at the front. It's just, I was really a very fast swimmer, because I noticed when I started slowing down, I started sinking. So it's either kind of swim fast, I want to know, or drown. So my only 2 options. But as I started going through sports, I learned about these amazing animals from canine companions, which is one of the best, or I would say the best, service dog industry in the country. And I got my first dog at home. I didn't know I could get a dog. I thought I was too independent. I told them that I didn't think I'd qualify. I'm a single dad, raising 3 boys. I just thought I was too independent to get to get a dog. Anyway, I went to California, and they had a third place here in Irving, and got my first dog in the fall. He was amazing guy. I can't even tell you in words how much this dog changed my life. Not only gave me my independence, but he gave me a battle buddy. When he knew I was in pain, he just ripped like Yago does now. He rests his head on my leg, just kind of always there for me. And before I got my dog, it was like I was invisible. I go to the store and people just wouldn't even, they saw me in a chair, they didn't know why I was in a chair, they just kind of, not to be mean, I think they just didn't know, and just kind of ignored me. So I felt like I was just completely invisible. And I remember the first time I brought my dog into the grocery store, I think I met every single person in the grocery store. And there's no more quick going to the supermarket for, milk and bread anymore. But especially, 10 years ago when we didn't have there's more service dogs around, and even more, unfortunately, fake service dogs. But they saw my dog like picking up items off the floor, that's pulling me in my chair. And, I can't tell you the great things. I have a short video to kind of give you an example and show you all the things that these amazing dogs do for us. So I don't drive a minivan.
I never had first got my first search on the wall. It was on my wall, it's kind of worse. So I never went this way. And my British practice, I think these dogs are actually using my crew with all my different experts going on. So when it goes to doors, you can go in the drive and I close out the can't wait to just. Moving like that. But it's a very interesting. It's not only so much easier to ask this policy. Really like, you know, these dogs are just like I'm very at the side. Like I was, everything I spread. You did the military. All that thing, you know, how they do it. It's great. It's great. What a great thing. I think this one is
So I know, like I said, I can't put it in the words, but for someone in a wheelchair, there's so many things that, you know, that you can't do, you're told you can't do. In fact, all the sports they told me I couldn't do, but, you know, getting a dog like that, it made me focus on my ability, not my disability. It's like, you know, there might be a few things I can do, but there's so 1,000 things I can do. And having my dog just made it, you know, so much easier. In fact, I'll just give you an example. 2 days ago, I was in my garage working, and I was reaching for something and my chair flipped over and I landed pretty hard like on my shoulder on the concrete. And I flipped my chair over and I realized that I didn't have my phone with me. And my wife was inside, so Yago was praying to bark when I'm in trouble. So I gave Yago the green light to do it now to start barking. But actually he was asleep. But anyway, so I had a bark and kept barking and finally, but a few minutes later, my wife came outside and helped me get back in my chair again. So I mean, that was just a few days ago. I mean, it's ongoing that when you give a guy like me that's so confined to so many things, different that much independence is a price that is it's priceless. Actually, is what it is. And as I started doing more and getting more, having the dog around, I got more into sports and stuff, and I became competing in the military Paralympic Games, and pretty successful doing that, and it was really good. But you know, that was the first time, because when I was out in the military, I was put on temporary disability, temporary retirement for 5 years. But then a year later, I got a letter saying that I'm now out of the military. And you know, after 10 years, there's no thank you, which is here's my letter, and that's it, I'm done. And sorry, I'm having some pain right now. But it was that was one of the worst days of my life, you know, because I always thought maybe I'll get better, they can still use me somehow. But to get that letter was just was devastating. And you know, and so I wasn't around the military anymore. This is right before 9/11, so right after that all my friends shipped off anyway. But it's different when you're not even living in the same group. I mean, I'm with these guys every day. These are my brothers. And you know, I mean, I trusted them with my life because they trusted me with theirs. And we did, you know, everything together. Our families did everything together. But it was being at the Paralympic Games was the first time I got to be around a bunch of other people in chairs and people with disabilities and stuff. And it was so amazing because for the first time I was able to talk to someone about what I was going through, they could understand. And that's huge. And it was there when I decided, I was like, you know, that'd be cool if we could all get together away from because it's, you know, at the, you know, it was an Olympic training center. It's pretty young. I mean, you're always training and always competing, so it's not really conducive for getting to know people too much. But I thought, how cool would that be if not only us, but our families and our kids get together for like retreats and stuff, and learn from one another and grow and help each other out. Like, hey, how do you do this or how do you do that? And all the resources available out there. And you know, about I could let them know about how to get service dogs. like, you know, I'd give anything if my kids, they grew up with their dad who was in a wheelchair their entire life, they're in their 20s now. And I would have given anything if my kids could have talked to other kids whose parents were in a chair and worked in the similar. I mean, like nobody can relate to what they were going through. And to have something like that, I thought would just be absolutely amazing. That was several years ago, and I'll get back to that here in a minute. But as I finished with that, this great organization came up to me and said, we want to sponsor you to the Marine Corps Marathon. And I said, well, you know, I'm Air Force, right? I said, yeah, as long as you don't win, we'll let you participate. So that's the only reason I didn't win, just so you know. But anyway, you know, that was 5 months away, and there's 2 ways for a person with disability like mine, paraplegic, to do a marathon. One is in a hand crank, a bicycle. I kind of think that's cheating. That's what most of them do. Or you can do it in a racer, which you actually push just like a wheelchair. It's a little bit more, I think you'll see a picture of it here in a minute, but it's a little bit more advanced than my wheelchair. It has 3 wheels on it, but I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to actually push myself, not cycle myself to the 26.2 miles. But I knew to be able to, I didn't just want to finish it, like I wanted to win. That's just the kind of person I am. And so I trained hard for like 5 months for this thing, and I probably put in about an extra 20 pounds of weight and to get ready for this event. And shortly before the event, about 5 or 6 weeks before the event, before the marathon came around, and I was feeling pretty good. We already done like 18 miles, and in my training and stuff, my you know, obviously I learned in military, and especially learned being in a chair that things never goes planned, and my foot just like completely swelled up, and I knew that wasn't right. I had like a little blister on my heel. So I went to the doctor, and to make a long story short, the bone was infected and needed surgery. They said it's a simple surgery to break off the infected bone on your heel, put a flap over the top of it, and you'll be good to go in a couple of days. It's like good, because in less than 6 weeks away, it's this marathon that has been on my bucket list. It's really important for me to do. Sorry. It's like doorbell. Sorry, my phone's still connected to the speaker. He knows someone's in. But he, so anyway, so we were, so I was getting ready to do the surgery, and then I got some scans and stuff, and he found out that it was much worse than what he thought it was. And so he said, he looked at the MRI scans, and he said that we're going to, says, you know, you can go in the hospital and you can be in there for a year with heavy antibiotics and not be able to save your leg. Said my, you know, my recommendation is to take your leg. I was like, are you kidding me? It's like, I mean, things were going good. I actually started walking a little bit with these long leg braces. I'm doing this marathon, and things are going really well. I'm in good health, and I was in good health. And then they tell me that, and it was devastating. I mean, like I can imagine, like I'm not expecting it at all. So anyway, I was sitting in there, and I told the doctor, give me a few minutes, and I just want to think about this. And sure, so he left, and I had an appointment right at the time, and so I didn't even tell him that my dog just got on my lap, just like this. He just got on my lap, and he started looking at me. It's almost like, you know, he's been 24/7 with these dogs. It's not like a pet, you know, and you know, he knows everything about me, and he knows I'm doing. He was upset. He just jumped up on my lap, which he never does without picking me in. It's kind of like looking at me, like, you know what, buddy, we can do this. And so anyway, the doctor came back in. I knew that I think I just lost my actually the doctor came back in. Everybody, get. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So sorry, where was I here? But so anyway, my decision was that I knew they could take off the leg. Christopher Reeve died from an infection like this, and I was not going to take the chance. And so my decision really was like, am I going to go back into that dark depression state when I first got injured, or am I going to follow my dreams and try to do this marathon? And I decided that I was going to still do this marathon. So I told the doctor, wasn't sure if it was possible or not. He said, but we'll do everything we can. And he said, a lot of the training that you're going to lose, you're going to be in the hospital for a couple of weeks. That's a pretty drastic surgery. And like you said, all the training that you've had lately, you're going to lose it. And so anyway, those pictures are the 2 pictures. That first picture is when I first saw my amputated leg. And when I first saw it, I just started bawling for like 15 minutes. And I finished mine, I'm like, okay, I've dealt with it, now it's time to move on. And those 2 pictures on the end, those are pictures of me 10 days later after my surgery. I was back in the gym training. So everything went really good. The physical therapist made these great braces for my leg, like they cover all the stitches, so I could still put them in my racer and everything like that. So then we headed up to about 4 weeks later after that picture, I was trained as much as I could. Of course, now my goal is not to win it, just to finish it, but going through something like that. And so we headed up to Washington DC for the regular marathon, and then Hurricane Sandy hits. So I was like, God, are you kidding me? Like, seriously. And so these are like some of the headlines here. But so Hurricane Sandy is supposed to hit the next day. So we're expecting like 45-mile winds and heavy rain. Well, the problem with rain is that, so on my chair, unlike my regular, actually I think, let's see if I have a picture of it here. See if I got the right way. So there's a regular marathon. And if you can see a picture there, you can see my hand. So I really special gloves that are padded and rubber on them. So I don't grab my rims and push them like a regular wheelchair. Like I hit my rims. That way I can go a lot faster. That makes sense. So I'm down in this position in a clenched fist and I'm like hitting my rims. That's the way you get your speed. And that's the way you go fast. Well, that's all good when it's sunny, but when it's raining, I mean, your hands just slip. So we did everything we could. We put gook on my gloves and special stuff on my wrist to make it as sticky as possible. And that was one of the hardest things I've done. And I remember going uphill into the wind. I saw, like, out of the corner of my eye, I saw this guy like walking past me, like with his 3-year-old toddler. And really, they were walking past me. And the kid kind of smiled at me like, hey, I'm like, I was not happy at that time. But I'm going down the hill. So I some of my times were like 12-minute miles, sometimes were like 4-minute miles. It just depended on the wind and the rain and going uphill or downhill. But anyway, I finished in 4 hours. And I remember getting done. I was hurting so bad they had to lift me up out of my chair and put me in a cot. And I was icing for the next, I think for about the next hour, just so I could even like really bend my back. But it was worth it. I could have easily not done this, but after doing this, I was so glad that I did. I felt like now I could do anything, going through something like that. And so that gets me back to why we're here, and that's the Veterans Outpost. I was hoping that maybe you understanding my life, the things I went through, is why there's a need for the Veterans Outpost. And there's 22 veterans that take their life every day. When they go through an injury like mine, you saw all the hardships and stuff that I had and maybe on surgeries. But fortunately, I had a good support group. I had my faith and my family, and I had this amazing service dog. I think without any one of those, I would have been in trouble. And the 2 guys that were injured with me, including my best friend Travis, he took his life. He was a quadriplegic from the accident. And I just said, there's got to be more for these guys to do and to give them hope again, to let them know that there is purpose after injury. I mean, it's going to be different. And it might not be better, it might not be worse, but it's going to be different. You just kind of accept those changes and learn to deal with your, like I said, with your ability, not your disability. And so anyway, I partnered with this amazing guy, David, over here. And he already had the land that he bought and paid for himself, 46 acres, obviously not cheap, but that's how much he's committed to this project. And in fact, I even moved, I've been in the house for a long time. I ended up moving closer to this outpost just so I can be closer there and can go there. And that's how dedicated I am to. We sold our house and moved to a house closer. And but really, there's a video, a quick video I want to show you. This is kind of the reason why we're doing the Veterans Outpost. And it's a story about this guy that he could have gone 2 different ways. And as you'll see.
There are 20 million United States Armed Forces veterans, 1.3 million active duty service members, and 800,000 reservists. Average 22 U.S. veterans and active duty service members take their own lives every day. Just living life leads many to a crossroads between life and death. One wrong turn a temporary challenge into an irreversible consequence.
I live home safe, thank God you made it. Open arms, open hearts, been waiting. To love me. Hello, smile, thank you for your service. Hope they don't notice you're inside. Friends and I, just you. Souls keep fading. 22 hearts that can't take the pain. Leave you to stay in this life. 22 turn up, turn down everywhere. You can keep your hands steady. Need you to soldiers out there, feel what you're feeling. Never all outside, these tragedies. Come so far now. 22 souls keep fading. 22 hearts that can't take the pain. Leave you to stay in the sky. 22
22 men and women every day feel compelled to take their own lives. This is hardly an acceptable end for those who serve in defense of our freedoms. Please, choose to make a difference in the lives of our returning veterans. We implore you, help our veterans in any way you can. love conquers all.
So you can see from that video and what David and I are doing here is, we're providing a resource for these veterans. Like I said, you saw that guy, there was 2 different roads. Could have gone, and I believe that I strongly believe that we're going to make it in these 22 guys. I think they're like every day because, David with PTSD, a combat photographer, and me with that and being a chair now for 23 years, I kind of know what's out there. I know what these guys, I've been through it, and I've been through, there's, I think it's like 90% of guys and thinkers like I go through the course, just like I did, and a lot of these guys are just left alone. I think I was very fortunate that I won custody of my kids. I didn't think I could with being a chair, but I did. But anyway, that's a picture of the outpost right there, and we're hopefully start building middle of next year, and we're going to build an event center and cabins, and my kids are designing the main hall. We're calling it Morgan's Mission, and I told my boys everything that you thought that you missed out on as me being in a chair. Let's design that into the building. Like we play football in the streets, not the safest place. So we're going to make a courtyard over there with padded areas so guys in their wheelchairs can play sports with their kids and stuff. Because there's so many more things that we're going to do, and it's exciting. And I know that, and the reason this is a lot different than most of the 90% of other charities is that I would say at least over 90% of the charities, they don't only help you if you got hurt after 9/11. They only got to help you if you got hurt around Afghanistan. And they think, well, they only need the new injured guys, but it's like, what, PTSD doesn't magically go away. Like my limbs aren't going to magically come back or grow back. I mean, doesn't matter when you were hurt or injured, or if it was wartime or peacetime, we're going to be there to help you. I think everyone who served under the same flag should deserve the same accessibilities and places to help them. And so anyway, we're building these cabins to be a great retreat for these families to get together for 5 days, and sometimes a day even longer. We're going to give them education about the loan grants that are out there that I didn't know. Like I just found out I get my new house at a grant to make it accessible. I thought I was going to have to get another loan to do it. I had no idea I could do it, but it's like, and these guys know about this, the things out there with horseback riding. These guys, you get them on a horse and they go anywhere they want, or me on a horse, you go anywhere I want. And I didn't know about it until I got on a horse. It was amazing. I had that freedom from my chair. And I asked these guys that have been in chairs and stuff. I'm like, or process, like, you've been on a horse, like, should I? I'm like, you have no idea what you're missing. But we also have cows out there. I think we have a baby that's born like 2 days ago, baby calf out there. And we're bottle feeding them, so they'll be, person friendly. So they go up there and just play with the calves and the cows and let them learn about these amazing service dogs they get from canine companions. But we're providing a lot of resources for there too. Here's just another picture. These are all pictures taken up on the outpost. And anyway, we're going to be in the back there. And my book that was written, there's a quote there from Bear Gills. When they told me they wanted to write my story, I told the guy, Damian Lewis, he's from London, and my story went overseas as well. And he said, I want to write your story. And I said, I think you're wasting your time. I said, it's good to speak for like 15 minutes, but I just don't think you should be a book about it. And I'm glad he didn't agree with me, because now it's published in several different languages. I think in 7 different countries. It was on the Today Show as one of the top summer reads. It's won several international awards, and I think that's like 4.8 stars out of 1,000. So he did an amazing job writing this book. I'm going to be selling them and signing them afterwards. We have some information on the Veterans Outpost there too. And I know I'm running late. There's always stories and challenges that they keep going, but I think we're kind of running out of time. So I'll wrap this up. I'm going to wrap this up with a quick, I got a tribute to my 3 amazing service dogs I think you'll enjoy. And real quick, that was a verse that I whispered to my brother. And Isaiah 40:31, for those that hope in the Lord renew their strength. They will soar wings like eagles. They will run and not go weary, and they'll walk and not be faint. That's kind of like our outpost. What we're doing is giving these guys renewed strength to give them hope again. So even though I had no idea that when that was my first waking words when I came out of my coma, this verse would really be. Now we're gonna get to the tributes, to my three heroes. You two, Yard.
When troubles come, my heart burdened be, and I am still wait here in silence till you come and sit down with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. And I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up more I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. Raise me up to more than I can
Thank you so much for having me.
Jason, what an amazing story, for sharing that with us. Jason will be around for a few minutes, so if you have some questions for him, if you want to get a book or get more information about the Veterans Outpost, I suggest that you keep them in the back. But we're going to adjourn the meeting and encourage you to stick around for a few more minutes. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to do our four-way test of the things we think are due. So Jim Klein, will you lead us?
Please join me before we finish the meeting. Say first. This is true. Second. This is their officer. Third. Will it go with the fourth. Will it be an efficient officer?
Thank you for being here today. Our president, Shane Webb, will be back next week. Mike, again, thanks for joining us. And Jason will be in the back to visit with you. We're adjourned.
We're going to speak. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Awesome, thank you.
She needs to know who was on Zoom today. This was on the podium. Was that for us?
No, that's